few questions about myself, but I wanted to ask you your opinion about something. I'm of a bit of a, I have a bit of a controversial belief that you can't truly understand someone because if you did, you would agree with them. Like, you can't truly understand someone's perspective because someone's perspective is made up of their entire life, and you can't experience someone's entire life. Do you agree with that, or do you have thoughts on that?
이해를 하려고 하지 말고 다름을 인정하는 게 더 우선입니다.
So I think it's more important to acknowledge the difference rather than trying to understand other people.
나와 다르다는 거.
So that person is different from me.
그건 인정합니까?
Do you acknowledge that?
Yeah.
그건 나랑 다르니까. 그러니까 어떤 이유인지 몰라도 그 사람 입장에서는 그럴 수 있겠다는 거.
So that person is different from me. So whatever reason that might be, he or she has all the rights to do those things.
그것은 그 사람을 위해서가 아니에요. 그 사람 그럴 수도 있다는 관점을 가지면 내가 화가 안 난다는 거.
It's not actually for the sake of that person, because with that perspective, I don't get angry.
그러니까 이해가 안 되면 물어보면 되잖아요.
So if you don't understand the person, you can ask that person.
난 네가 그런 거 이해가 안 된다. 왜 그러니? 하고 물어보면 되잖아요.
So let's say you can say, if you do those things, I don't understand. Why did you do those things?
다 알 필요는 없어요.
You don't have to know all about that person.
다 알 수도 없고요.
It's impossible as well.
그래서 첫 번째 가장 중요합니다.
So first, the most important thing
우린 서로 다르다.
that is know that we all are different.
그러니까 우리 아이도 나와 다릅니다.
So our children are different from us parents.
그러니까 아이가 어떤 행동을 할 때 나와 다른 것을 먼저 인정해야 합니다.
So when my child does something, then I have to first acknowledge and understand that my child is different from me.
두 번째는 아이 입장에서는 그럴 수도 있겠다는 거예요.
And second, from my child's perspective, he or she can do those things.
그럼 화는 안 나요.
Then at least you don't get angry.
그럴 수는 있는데 왜 그런지는 잘 모르겠어.
So he or she can do those things, but I don't really understand why.
그럼 물어보면 돼요.
Then you can ask your child.
그러면 대화가 시작이 되는 거예요.
Then there you can start a conversation.
Can I ask another question?
네네.
I'm a very creative person, and I enjoy expressing myself through my physical appearance. But I'm also a very intellectual person, and I'm worried that being vain in this way is taking away from my intellectual ability to gain more knowledge. To gain.
걱정이 되면 안 하면 되잖아요.
If you are worried, you can stop doing it.
But what if I don't want to decide? I know there's not enough time in a life to do everything I want, and I also know that I'm not the most patient person, though I try to be. I want to do a lot with my life, but I don't know how to decide what order I should do it in.
구체적으로 어떤 거예요? 제가 순서를 정해줄 테니까.
So what are the things you would like to do? I would make decisions of the order for you.
Well, I'm very interested in music, but I can't listen to every single song, sadly. And one thing that's been coming up is I want to listen to so many different musical genres, but there's not nearly enough time to process all of them and to listen to all of them in a timely fashion where I can decide what songs I like. I also really like art, and I also value my studies a lot, and I'm having trouble deciding what school right now would be the best for me to go to, because there are different options and different opportunities at each turn, and it's hard to know and to make a big decision because I can't see into the future, obviously. And
아무것도 안 하고 일주일만 있어 보세요.
So I suggest that you don't do anything for a week
이 전부 생각에서 일으킨 거거든요.
because it all comes from your thoughts in your head.
그 모든 것을 아무것도 안 해도 아무 문제가 없습니다.
So there will be no problem at all and nothing will happen if you don't do anything about it for a week.
그러니까 이걸 다 하겠다고 생각하지 말고 이 중에 아무것도 안 해도 아무 문제가 없다. 이렇게 먼저 생각해야 합니다.
So instead of what should I choose from all these options, maybe you can try it will cause any problem at all. It will not cause any problem at all even if I don't do anything from all this list.
아무것도 안 하든지 아니면 한 개만 한다면 어느 걸 할 거냐 이렇게 정해서 해보면 됩니다.
So I recommend doing nothing or choosing only one of all these options and do that.
the funny thing about that is I have been in my house for like almost the past half year since I came back from residential treatment, and I actually have not done a lot at all. I spent my summer mostly inside doing small hobbies and menial tasks, but the only thing it brought me was more anxiety. I have some pretty bad anxiety, but I think doing nothing is just giving into my anxiety and indecisiveness. I do think doing nothing has value in it. I also think I've done a lot of nothing, and I've had my time to do that, and I've had my time to think. And in the past few years, I've gained a lot of life-changing information and knowledge about myself, but I still can't decide what to do with it. And I'm young, so I know I have plenty of time to decide, but that doesn't make it any easier.
아무것도 안 한 게 아니고 앉아서 온갖 것을 생각했습니다.
Maybe instead of doing nothing, maybe you have thought about so many things while sitting.
제가 아무것도 안 해도 된다는 것은 그것이 다 생각으로 일으키기 때문에 생각을 멈추면 아무 문제가 없습니다.
So the reason I recommend you do nothing is because all these things are created by your thoughts. So what I recommended is actually pause your thoughts.
여기 명상센터에 가서 10일 10데이 코스에 들어가서 오직 숨이 들어가고 숨이 나가는 데만 집중하고 생각을 멈추면 교통정리가 저절로 됩니다.
So if you participate in one of the meditation centers and meditate for 10 days, and if you only focus in being mindful of the breath coming in and going out and pause all the thoughts, then it will solve all the questions that you have.
거기 앉아서 이거 할까 저거 할까 이거 할까 저거 할까 하는 거는 명상이 아니고 사색입니다.
When you sit there during the meditation retreat, if you think about should I do this, should I do that, then that's not meditation.
명상이라는 것은 어떤 생각이 일어나도 그 생각에 의미를 부여하지 않고 다만 호흡만 알아차려야 합니다.
So when you do meditation, you don't assign any meaning or you don't imbue anything with any meaning, with any thoughts.
I've done a lot of meditation, especially in treatment, and when I was younger, I didn't like meditation, mostly because I had a lot of trouble shutting my thoughts off. Ever since I was younger, I've always had like crippling existentialism whenever I try and sleep or sit quietly for a while. And there were times when I was able to control it, but my anxiety has grown very difficult to control if I don't do anything. That's why I try and listen to music, because it helps distract me from my mind. And if I listen to my mind and my breath for too long, usually I wind up having a panic attack. Or if not,
그러면 신경정신과에 가서 한번 이 진찰을 받아본 적은 있습니까?
So have you been to a psychiatrist?
yeah, I have. And I'm not seeking help with my anxiety. I'm just saying meditation personally doesn't work for me in the traditional method of doing nothing.
그러니까 이 생각을 하는 그러니까 앉아서 이것저것 궁리하는 명상은 사색이지 명상이 아닙니다. 명상이라는 것은 생각을 이렇게 딱 멈춰야 합니다. 생각이 멈춰지지 않으면 생각의 의미를 생각이 아무리 일어나도 아무런 의미를 부여하지 않아야 되는데 거기 앉아서 계속 생각한다면 오히려 더 지금 질문자가 얘기하듯이 역효과가 납니다.
So when you're meditating, and if you think about this and that, it's not a meditation, it's a contemplation. So when you meditate, you pause your thoughts, or you don't just imbue any meanings with any thoughts you have come across. So if you do sit down and just think about this and that, that's not a meditation, and that causes those kind of side effects you mentioned.
그것이 이 마스터의 지도를 받아서 해도 잘 안 되면 이제는 스스로 자기를 자각하는 것, 알아차림이 유지가 안 되기 때문에 그것은 치료받는 수밖에 없습니다.
So if you can't really being mindful of yourself or pause that thoughts, even if you have this program under the guidance of a master or teacher, then maybe it is difficult for you to have the self-awareness. So maybe you should seek help from a professional psychiatrist.
명상이라고 하는 것은 수행이라고 하는 것은 자기가 자기 통제가 가능할 때 유효합니다.
So meditation or practice, it is feasible and it is beneficial, and it has its role when you have this capacity of control and monitor yourself.
자기가 자기 통제가 안 되면 그것은 이제 남의 도움을 얻어야 됩니다. 즉 의사의 도움을 얻어서 치료를 받아야 합니다.
So when you are not able to control or monitor yourself, then you should seek professional help from medical personnel.
I do have support, and it's not as big of an issue in that way. I mainly just have trouble not doing anything because my mind doesn't really stop, or even if I am doing something, I tend to need to do something else to keep my mind occupied, and it's hard for me to focus when doing things like
그러니까 이것은
mindfulness, but
일종의 불안 증세, 그러니까 정신적으로 불안 증세이기 때문에 불안 증세를 치료해야지 뭘 달리 방법은 없습니다.
So I think it's a symptom of anxiety. So I think you have to first treat the symptoms of the anxiety, and I think that's the option you have right now.
I know that I have anxiety and it is being treated, but that's not the issue I'm seeking help with.
다시 말씀드리지만은 이 명상이라는 것은 자기가 자기 절제가 가능할 때만 유효합니다.
So again, meditation works when you can have this ability to control and monitor yourself.
자기 절제가 안 되는 사람은 그냥 치료를 받아야지 명상을 통해서는 더 불안하고 더 생각이 많아지기 때문에 효과가 없습니다.
So if you are unable to control and monitor yourself, then you better seek the medical help. And otherwise, if you keep meditating, I think it just worsens your symptoms.
I already have medical help, so
네. 우선 치료가 우선입니다.
Yes, treatment is first, I think.
thank you.
네.
감사합니다.
여러분들이 인간관계에서 어떤 한 사람 다 괜찮은데 한 사람이 딱 밉다 이러면 저 사람만 내가 이렇게 수용하면 모든 사람의 관계에서 난 자유롭다. 그렇기 때문에 그 사람과 자유로워지는 것을 수행의 과제로 삼아야 합니다.
So if among all the relationships that you have with everybody, if there is one person you have this hatred or resentment towards, if only you can accept or embrace that person, and it will just free yourself with all the relationships that you have, then it can become a topic or task of your practice.
근데 두 사람이나 이렇게 미운 사람이 있다.
But if you have two people you have hatred towards or
그러면-
resentment towards,
내가 문제가 있나 이렇게 살펴봐야 됩니다.
then you have to ask yourself, do I have any problem?
세 사람이 그런 사람이 있다.
If there are three people that you feel hatred or resentment,
무조건 병원에 가야 돼.
then you have to go to the hospital no matter what.
그러니까 우리들의 우리는 정신질환을 많이 앓고 있습니다.
Many of us have this mental illness,
근데 자기가 환자인 줄 모릅니다.
but we don't really know, and many of us don't know that we are sick.
그래서 몸이 아프면 병원에 가서 진찰을 받듯이 정신적으로도 늘 검진을 받아야 됩니다.
So just as we go to the hospital when we feel sick in our physical bodies, when you feel sick in your mind and heart, you regularly have to go to seek medical help.
우리가 치료를 받는다 하는 것은 완치된다는 뜻은 아닙니다.
So even if you receive the treatment, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can be treated 100%.
첫째, 완치가 되는 경우도 있고요.
First, you can be healed and treated 100%.
또 더 이상 악화가 되지 않도록 현상을 유지시켜 주는 치료도 있고요.
Second, you can be treated as much as you don't get worse anymore.
악화가 되는 속도를 늦춰주는 치료도 있습니다.
Or there's a treatment that can decrease the speed of getting worse.
여러분들의 오해는 치료라면 다 완치되는 걸 자꾸 생각합니다.
But a lot of us have this misconception and misunderstanding. So whenever you get treated, you will be treated 100% and you can recover.
특히 정신적인 질병에 대해서는 아직 규명이 충분히 되지 않았습니다.
Especially for the psychiatric or psychological illnesses and mental illnesses, we don't have yet 100% of solutions.
전통적으로 여러 치료 방법이 있습니다.
We have traditionally have many ways to solve this.
그 모든 치료법하고 현대 정신과 치료법하고 비교해 봤을 때 정신과 치료법이 그래도 효과가 조금 낫다 이렇게 볼 수 있습니다.
All this traditional way of treating the psychological and mental illness compared to those, the modern psychology or psychiatrists, they are in a better position, we can say.
그러니까 제가 정신 건강이 안 좋으면 일단 검진을 받아보라는 겁니다.
So that is why if you have this mental illness or psychological issues, then you have to first seek medical help.
정신적으로 그 치료를 받을 만큼의 문제가 없는데 여러 가지 괴로움이 있다.
But if you have a lot of suffering, not to the extent to seek for medical help,
그러면 자기가 스스로 치료해야 합니다.
then you have to heal yourself.
자기가 스스로 치료해서 괴로움 없는 단계로 나아가는 것을 수행이라고 말합니다.
So healing and treating yourself and going to the status of not having suffering, we call it practice.
그렇기 때문에 스스로 자기 통제가 이루어지지 않는 사람은 수행한다고 효과가 나지 않습니다.
So those of us who are not able to control or monitor ourselves, even if we do practice, it doesn't really necessarily get any better.
그러니까 뭐든지 정신적으로 문제가 있으면 수행하면 된다. 이건 잘못된 생각입니다.
So whatever mental or psychological issues that we have, we can solve it with practice. That's not true.
그다음에 많이 걷는 것, 절을 하는 것은 정신적인 질병의 치료에 도움이 됩니다.
And also walking a lot and bowing or prostrating a lot, it's also helpful for treating your mental or psychological issues.
불면증은 정신질환의 징조입니다.
Insomnia is actually a symptom of mental problem.
그래서 여러분들이 적당한 운동과 푹 자는 것은 정신적인 안정을 취하는 데 매우 중요합니다.
So amount of exercise and getting enough sleep, it's really good for your mental health.
우리가 인생을 살아가면서 겪는 많은 문제들이 있습니다.
We have a lot of troubles or difficulties as we live our lives.
그때는 매우 중요한 일이 있습니다.
Each moment, those difficulties were really important for us.
1년이 지나고 10년이 지나서 돌아보면 다 별일 아닙니다.
After 1 year or 10 years, it's nothing.
왜 그럴까요?
Why so?
원래 별일이 없습니다.
Because there was nothing important in the first place.
여러분들이 어떤 일이 일어나든 지나가면 별일 아니다. 이 관점을 항상 살펴봐야 합니다.
So whatever situation you might be in, if it passed you by, it will become nothing to you.
그러면 지금 일어나는 일에 대해서 흥분된 마음이 훨씬 많이 가라앉습니다.
If you keep that perspective, then your emotional turmoil will decrease and you will become calmer.
그렇게 해서 여러분들이 현재 너무 집착되어서 흥분된 상태로 이렇게 괴로워하지 않았으면 좋겠습니다.
So I hope that you are not too attached to the moment of what's happening at that moment, and you live a life free from suffering.
자, 어떤 일이든 별일 아니다, 별일 아니다. 이 얘기는 인생을 훨씬 더 가볍게 살아갈 수 있다는 뜻입니다.
So whatever that is nothing. There's nothing special. Then you can live a life with the more, lightheartedness.
지금 사회가 옛날보다 이렇게 좀 더 자유롭게 살 수 있도록 되어 있습니다.
So current society, when we think about it in the past, we are living a life with more freedom.
직업도 이렇게 바꿀 수 있지 않습니까?
You can always change your jobs.
결혼도 이렇게 바꿀 수 있지 않습니까?
You can always change your spouse.
그렇기 때문에 너무 심각하게 결정을 안 해도 됩니다.
So you don't have to make a decision in a very, serious way.
네, 먼저 가볍게 결정을 하고 테스트를 해보고 조정을 해 나갈 수 있습니다.
You make a decision lightheartedly and you test it out and you can make a decision and again you can modify your decision.
옛날에는 한번 결정을 하면 죽을 때까지 책임을 져야 됩니다.
Well, in the past, if you made a decision one time, you have to take responsibility of the consequences for the rest of your life.
결정하기가 굉장히 무거웠습니다.
So it was with a really heavy heart.
굉장히 신중해야 하고요.
You make a decision really carefully.
그래서 인생살이가 무거울 수밖에 없었습니다.
So inevitably, living a life was really
그러나
heavy burden.
지금은 훨씬 가볍게 살 수 있습니다.
But nowadays, we can live our lives with more lightheartedness.
이것을 함부로 하라는 뜻이 아닙니다.
It's not, making a decision without any thinking.
너무 이렇게 무겁게 이렇게 임하지 말라는 뜻입니다.
I'm trying to say, don't be just, too serious about making decisions.
네, 여러분들이 좀 더 가볍게 살아가기를 바랍니다.
I hope you have a life with lightheartedness.
제가 어떤 분이 저에게 이런 질문을 했습니다.
Somebody asked this question to me.
자기는 결혼 한 번 실패하고 두 번째 결혼했는데 지금 또 헤어지게 됐습니다.
I married once. I failed in my first marriage, and in my second marriage, in peril again.
그래서 제가 전생에 무슨 죄를 지어서 이렇게 결혼에 계속 실패합니까?
And that person asked me, what kind of sin did I committed in my past life to have these difficulties in marriages?
그래서 제가 이렇게 말했습니다.
And this is what I told that person.
저는 결혼을 한 번도 못했습니다.
I've never married at all.
당신은 무슨 복을 지어서 결혼을 두 번이나 합니까?
What kind of merits you have committed in the past life so that you married twice, not once?
결혼 두 번 한 것이 복입니까? 재앙입니까?
Two marriages, getting married 2 times, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
생각하기 나름이에요.
It depends how you see it.
그러니까 이것을 재앙이라고 생각하지 마십시오.
So don't think as a disaster.
그러니까 그냥 그런 일이 일어났을 뿐입니다.
It just happens.
그러니 여러분들이 어떤 일이든 너무 심각하게 생각하지 말고 좀 가볍게 받아들이시기 바랍니다.
So whatever that is, don't think too seriously about it. Just
네,
be
시간이 많이
lighthearted.
지났습니다.
I talked too long.
여기까지 하겠습니다.
I'll conclude here now.